book. Here we go. The electronic version you can download on Amazon. The hard copy, inbox me. Alright, tonight is gonna be a good one. We are hosting a massive guy. You know this guy? The author of this book. Stick around. Today we're speaking about growth, about purpose. It's gonna be an exciting show. Let's go. What? Whoever you're sitting with, get them in the room. Tell them that the party has started. It's a Wednesday. It's date night. Date with destiny. Every Wednesday. You know how we do it. Let's go. Just. Our guest is online. Beautiful. Let's do this. What? You make me believe my dream. Hello. Welcome. Yes, welcome to the party. Wow. How are you doing?
I'm keeping very well and good, my good sir. I hope you're well too.
I am fantastic. And I can't wait. All right, let me greet the people and then we can kickstart tonight. And welcome to HE.ARTS Live every Wednesday. It's another date night. You know how we do it. Tonight, we are celebrating somebody else. You know, we're celebrating people who are light beyond the spotlight. And my guest is going to be fantastic. We're going to be speaking about branding, about growth, and about purpose. So tonight, you definitely need to get your notebook out and get ready for the show. My brother, how are you doing? And how has your week been?
You know, a week is a day in experience. You know, there's so much unpredictability. You've got to be geared for challenges and confrontations that would make you a better person, because you need to make a choice. Either you're becoming bitter or you're becoming better.
Nazo. Guys, we've already started. If you are coming in, the stove is already on, the pots are on the stove. Get your plate ready, and we're going to be having a great dinner tonight. Pastor Tsepo, how would you, if for people that don't know you, how would you introduce yourself to them?
I milk many cows but make my own butter.
Yay! This is going to be a long night. Okay.
So simply put, I'm a student of life, and I open myself to many information and readings, and I explore quite a lot. But one thing you can count on, I will come up with my own view of things.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And when did you realize that aspect of you, that intellectual space, that curious space, that ability to be, or that desire to be a student of life? When did you become conscious of that?
I think that was triggered by, I do a lot of personal reflection. I think if there's one thing you can never take away from my day is reflection. I could be in a meeting, I could be in conversation, but there's part of me that will escape into myself, right? And there will be a conversation whilst I'm having a conversation, if you know what I mean, all right?
I like that.
And as such, then I begin to ask myself questions like, what really is life? You know, if we were to ask broadly anyone to define life, I bet you now that everyone would define life, they would define it in view of their experiences, right? And what they could have seen others go through. But no one has a definite definition to life, because definition we have excludes experiences that we still are to encounter. The definition of life would be improved after this conversation.
Yeah, I lost you for a second there, but I have you back. Can you see me? Oh! The reception is not agreeing for a second, but there we go. We have you back.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
So you were still saying that people would define and describe life from their own perspective and their own experience.
Yeah, absolutely, right? Because no one has a definite definition to life, right? We all have a working, revolving, evolving definition of life. You know, your definition of life before this conversation is going to be fundamentally or somehow different from what it would be after we've had this conversation, right? Because certain things would be either introduced, re-emphasized, and sort of recalibrated about how you perhaps understood life, right? So that's why it becomes an everyday experience, because we are in a process of becoming our better own versions, right? So that comes with interactions of this nature. That's why it's so good to be in this program today.
Thank you for saying yes to be in this program. And I totally agree when you're speaking about the journey of becoming, because that's one of the that has become my mantra in the past 2 years, 3 years, where I've realized that often we are running or chasing the end product, and we miss the unfolding of the story.
The journey,
the journey. And many of us are frustrated by the mundane of the everyday, the little unfolding, the things that you need to do to get to the higher version of yourself, if I may say. What if somebody, what would you define as purpose? If somebody said, what is purpose? How would you define it to somebody? From your own experience, from your own journey, but what does purpose mean?
Yeah. To me, having really looked at a whole lot of things, I've come to a very simplified definition of what purpose is, right? Yeah. Purpose is the reason behind you, which must be pursued by you.
Nice. The reason behind you, which must be pursued by you. I love that. I love that because it's not the reason just for you to be, but it's the reason that you must pursue it. So in other words, you are the one that's going to either determine whether or not that happens, right? The outcome.
Absolutely, right? Because I'm a firm believer that for every one of us to be here, what the legitimacy behind our being is that which preceded us, right? Because for purpose to be, you can't be ahead of it.
Yeah.
All right. Yes. It's the reason that made you to be. That's why we can argue and feel bad about sometimes that some people maybe are a product of the rape and things like that, But sooner or later, there's divine intervention that refocuses this person to say, yes, this could have happened, right? But the fact that you are here, it means there is something ahead of you. There's something that preceded you, which you now need to pursue it, right? For discovery. Because if you think about it, you can never uncover until you discover.
I like that, because there's this thing that I normally do whenever I'm giving talks, especially at the end of my talk. I call it iskaftini, and I always say that it's something that it's a takeaway. We never prepare iskaftini because we are hungry at that moment, but we prepare it for the journey ahead. And one of the things about iskaftini is that something that might be said at this moment, you might not need to hear it, and that's why you put it in the iskaftini, because you anticipate the fact that along the way in the journey there will come a time of hunger. So then you're going to be able to use whatever nuggets that you would have stored in the iskaftini. So
and I fully agree with you. I fully agree with you, because if you think about it, isikhaftini umphako, yabona? Because if it happens that you visited somewhere, right, and manje sefika isikhathi that you go back home, the people you're visiting, okay, of course, depending on the distance. Let's say you visited far away. They will do an act to like to prepare for you a provision or umphako, right? Umphako has two things. It foresees and it addresses. Right? So they are foreseeing ukuthi uzolamba. Awukalamba usela, you are still here. But they are foreseeing. Yeah. Right? But they are foreseeing ukuthi mayihamba le izolamba endleleni. Yabona? And then bese bayakulungisela so that makufika isikhathi sendlala, you are not looking for the nearest filling station or halfway station. You can open umphako isikhaftini sakho because they foresaw and addressed.
Hey, I like that. I love that. Also, whilst we're still there, I like the fact that in the journey, Mount Umphako, you don't necessarily need to buy, even in a map. You know, because it's the lane, but you've got already a provision. And many of us arrive at our destination with nothing to purchase. Must figure. I really
the cost of the journey is expensive.
Hey. Yes.
Ziyadura izinto endleleni, bro.
And I like that because I think many of us, especially the younger generation, we pay more in the journey because we did not sit silungisele isikhaftini. Asikwazanga ukulinda ithuba lokuthi isikhaftini senzwe. We were so much in a hurry to say indlela izoshiya, and we leave our houses. Uma usagijima ekitchen usahlanganisa isinkwa wena uthi hayi uyangibambezela. And in the end, what we could have saved for our destination.
Sir, this is so true to life, because if you don't prepare, you will have to repair. Right? Yeah. If you don't prepare, you will have to repair. And if you think about it, right, the time you are repairing, progress is intercepted and interrupted. Right? Because now you are repairing instead of progressing. Right? So umphako sort of focuses us on that thing to say prepare. Prepare. Zizodura izinto phambili. Yabona? Kanti if you khona la ukhona ungakahambi, things are reasonable. Right? Endleleni, you may need to buy things that are now expensive, and whereas they were cheaper where you were.
Yeah. You're now buying things because of necessity, because you failed to be patient enough to wait for the process of preparation.
There you are.
I love that.
There you are.
I love
there
that.
You are.
I mean, I think it's so important because uhambo liyalungiselelwa, you know?
Yes.
Many of us, we just quickly jump on the journey and think we're going to figure it as we go. What are the dangers of that attitude?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, each challenge, generally human beings have what I call a destination disease.
Ooh, yeah.
Right? If you give a person a book to read, the first thing they want to do is to say how many pages are here. That's a destination disease. All right? Already a person say, this book's gonna take me long was to read. You know, so many pages. That's a destination disease. And the problem with it is once you are so preoccupied about destination, you lose sight of what is available in the program of advancement. All right? Because your life, everyone's life, is a process for progress. All right? And I've got to appreciate the fact that what I call progress may not necessarily always be quantifiable in terms of material aspects and any other thing. Sometimes progress is a shift in the mindset.
I love that.
Sometimes progress is a change in how I look at things and how I view life. That's progress. Right? You now choose your battles. You now know what things to ignore. I was talking to somebody yesterday and I say, I know we've been told that wisdom is knowing what to say, but I've come to realize that wisdom is knowing what not to say.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Because if we can tap into that, it's going to save you time of trying to explain what you meant by what you said. Right? Whereas when you tap into knowing what to ignore, just ignore. Yeah. Right? Because you are conscious of the fact that every step of the way is aimed at improving something about your life. It may not necessarily improve your economic position, but it will improve your state of mind in preparation for that which is to come.
I'm in full agreement of that. Because I think also, again, in our modern generation, in our times, a lot of us think that progress is taking 4 steps forward all the time. And
yes.
when we find ourselves in a same space, and physically and emotionally, as growth. Yeah. Because we wanted to see some sort of physical movement forward, even,
I'm in full agreement. You see, that's exactly where we get stuck, right? Because we define success by physical movement.
Yeah.
All right. We would define success by not being where I was. Then to us, that's success. I draw a distinction between movement and shift. All right. So many people can move, but without their mind shifting.
Yeah.
All right. And they still have a before mind when they are ahead. All right. And sooner or later, the physical movement is going to want to retrace where the mind is. Right? Yeah. So you are stuck to where your mind is even when there is movement. Right? That's why to some people, promotion has been very bad.
Yeah. It was their downfall.
Yeah. They were promoted to their demise.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay? Because there is physical movement, they're shifting desks, they're shifting offices, and all of that, but their minds are still there. Right? I can show you rich burgers. I can show you people who are rich, but they are beggars.
Yeah.
Okay? Because if there is no change in the mindset, even if I give you whatever you need, your life is not going to progress, but it will be frustrated by what you have.
True. Very true.
Yes, sir.
Very true. Wow. I love that. I love this idea of being in the journey and of understanding life as a journey. And I want to dive deeper into that. But before we get there, the other day I was sitting, and it's something as well that I was chatting to my friends about, and I was looking at the apple seed and how the apple seed, its main purpose or its promise is that it's going to be the fruit one day. And when the apple seed is planted and then it starts to grow, we only see a flower. Now, a lot of us die in that stage because this thing was promised to be a fruit, not a flower.
Yes.
But for it to get into the stage of moving from from seed to fruit, it's going to first be a plant, and then it's going to be a tree, and then only it's going to be that fruit. So I want to speak about the journey of becoming.
Yes.
How your environment can be a hindrance to your growth, because Tsepo Tsotetsi knows you as a seed. And tomorrow when he comes and you are like, no, I'm becoming a plant, it's like you have fallen, you've lost your journey, you've lost your path. I want to speak about that journey because I know that I met you as a pastor, but then I started to see the other hats as I started to get to know you. And those hats for me became more pronounced even than the original hat that I saw you. Then I saw you take on a journey of starting to be a runner. And that was like two worlds, It's one thing to be a pastor and then a speaker, we like, you're still in the same thing, still speaking to people.
Yes,
but when you move from the pulpit to the running, to the field, that is such a distinction. So how did that process be for you, and how did you find resistance from people who knew you from one space and refused to allow you to become the next thing?
Yeah. Interesting question that you ask. I believe that we all draw from our worldview.
Mm-hmm.
All right? Yeah, we are products of environments that have produced us. Right? And one of the critical components of a worldview is one's sense of theology. Right? Mm-hmm. Where do you draw your strength? Mm-hmm. Right? That then becomes a critical point, because now my sense of theology and my source of strength is in God. Right? Now, I needed to ask myself, what is the perspective that he has about me versus the one I have, or the perception I have about myself?
Whoa.
So I believe he has a perspective and I have a perception.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Right?
He has a perspective, you have a perception.
I have a perception. Let me illustrate, right? We're digressing, but let me illustrate. Yeah. If, depending on the view you have, if you are at the foot of the mountain, it looks way too big and humongous. But if you are at the peak of the mountain, you realize that every other thing is little. That's the difference between a perspective and a perception. Okay, so here's the point I'm trying to get to. In his perspective, right? In his perspective, I am what I am trying to become. Yeah. So with him, I am before I become.
Yeah.
So I'm on my way to become what I am in God.
Woo! Love that. Yeah. Yes.
Bro, Jeremiah was a prophet even before he was in his mother's womb.
Yeah.
He was a prophet. Dan, Clar, prophet. This guy is not there, but he's a prophet. Right? So when you become that which we are surprised and celebrate, God is actually surprised. No, these people, why are they celebrating what he's been already? All right, because in him you are before you become, so that when you become, it's all because you are in him.
Love that. Yes. Yes.
He says, I am who I am. Which simply means, do not define me because you will confine me. Anything that defines you confines you.
I love that. Now, tying that statement to that journey, because people, it's natural for us as people to define everything around us so that we can make sense of, you know. So how did you find opposition in your journey of becoming, moving, not necessarily leaving, but starting this journey as an athlete? Did you find a resistance from, or opposition from the people that knew you in one way and wanted to keep you in the way that they knew you?
Yeah, it's actually very fascinating, because life will bring certain situations that will recalibrate your view to it. Right? I remember the year before, I remember I was watching the Comrades Marathon 2016. And I kept asking myself, but these people, is there something wrong with them? Don't they have cars? They can drive? Why do you run 90 kilometers? I mean, really, what's wrong with you? 90 kilometers. And I remember the slogan then in 2016, it was Izokutoba, right? It will humble you. And I could say, yeah, it's really humbling them. They're battling. That's me sitting in my couch watching the... Yes. Bro, little did I know that next year, same time, I will be with these mad people.
Wow. I like that idea of mad as well, because it's almost as though it goes back to the shift, right? And a shift is a kind of mentality. It's a kind of madness that you then adopt and embrace for you to unfold and become, right?
Yes, absolutely. So in my case, life challenged me, man. I was in a very difficult space, right? In life, and this is where I got to understand and understood the power of addiction. When life throws a whole lot of things your way, as human beings, we tend to want to find something to be a source of comfort.
Yeah.
Right? And this is where different people could fall into different addictions. Right? And in most cases, sadly, it's going to be substance abuse and all of that. I am grateful to God that what became an addiction to me was running. Now, here's the difference. I was not running because I wanted to prove myself to whether I can finish the race. I wanted time with self. And running provided me that time to be with myself. Okay?
All right.
Yes.
I don't want to stop your thoughts, but I like that because a lot of us in modern day South Africa, in modern day world, even in Corona times, people are frustrated because it's forcing everybody to sit with self.
Yes.
You can't go to the club you used to go to. You can't go to the places you are forced to sit with self. And a lot of people have been using everything around them to run away from self. So what made you want to run to self, to run with self? What was that?
Yeah.
What did that mean?
Situations in life are going to corner you. There will come a time where you can run no more.
Yeah.
Right? Until you confront the mirrored self. Okay? So in my case, I was not running because I wanted to lose weight. No. All right? Yeah. And as a matter of fact, I was not running because I had role models. All right? It was enough time to be with self and to converse with myself and have these conversations, uncomfortable as they may be. And to a point that I once said, when you are running in the rain, the good thing about it is when you cry, no one can see.
I loved that part in your book. I loved that part in the book.
Because
the rain and the tears become one, but at the same time, you almost get a permission to cry, especially as a man.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Because as a man, you're always supposed to be strong. You're supposed to be the protector. You're supposed to be the provider. You're supposed to be God himself.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
The rain becomes not a facade, but an opportunity, a window.
Yes.
To be vulnerable to express that side of you.
Absolutely. You see, no matter who you are, there must be a place and a point where you allow vulnerability to be in your life and in your space. Right? Whilst I maintain that you can't just be vulnerable anywhere and everywhere.
Exactly.
Right? But you need to find that which can embrace and espouse your vulnerability, so that you can break yourself, break down, cry it out, recollect yourself. But you know what? God can never construct until he destructs. All right? A critical component of construction is destruction.
Yeah.
Right? Have you ever seen everywhere there's construction, right? They're going to be breaking things. And you say, what are you constructing? But you are destructing. You say, no, it's a process of constructing. It's destructing. Right? You are destructing things that could be a distraction to that which needs to be constructed.
Woo! Yes. 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 Yes.
So when you are bleeding, when you are crying, when you are hurting, it's a necessary step. Right? It's a necessary step because that becomes very key to the rebuilding, remolding of who you are.
Yeah.
Right? And you would recall a story when Jesus had a multitude of people, and that he had spoken to them the whole day, and come the time people were hungry, and the disciples said, no, let them go. Then he asked, what do you have? To cut the long story short, the bread was never multiplied until it was broken.
Hey! Yes. 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 I love that. I love it. I heard it in layers. I heard it. I love that.
Yes. There is more of you once you're broken.
Yay! I love that. I love that because I've always said that we are vessels of light, and sometimes the light shines best through the cracks, and we are afraid to be broken because we're afraid that the cracks are going to be visible. But God uses those cracks to shine a light in direction that it would otherwise not have shined.
Absolutely. Wow. Absolutely. The bread fed the multitude the moment it was broken. All right? You become of use to a whole lot of people. People want someone who, when they go through problems, could say, no, let me pray for you. People want someone who say, you know what, I know what you're talking about. I have been there. Then they begin to share their story, begin to narrate what they've gone through. And you're multiplying in influence. You're multiplying in impact because you are a broken bread.
Hey! I love that idea of being a broken bread. I really love it because the bread was broken so much so that there was leftovers. There was leftovers. Many of us, we can't even, when we are done here, our story is finished because we can't be broken. But when we allow ourselves for that brokenness, we will outlive the need of the time.
Man, that's profound. Wow. You see, you become even much more for the people who needs you, and there's more of you for those who are not here.
Exactly. Those who are yet to come will partake in a provision that was there before their time.
Yes.
I love that.
That's when the impact outlives you, right? You see, the only thing you leave behind when you are gone, right, is exactly the influence you have. That's what you leave behind when you are gone.
I want to go back to the idea of madness again, because here you are, it's 2017, I think, and you decide that you're going to run the comrade marathon. Okay, you decide that you want to make a change in your life. And firstly, you're going to start, you go to the gym, you register, and you start running a treadmill. And within time, you realize that you are in the same space, but doing a whole lot. And you're like, no, I want to move. And you move and you hit the road. And there's something so profound about leaving the treadmill for the street. Because the treadmill is moving, but you are on the same space. And you sing the same thing and doing the same thing and wasting all the energy, growing, developing stamina, but in the same space. And here you are, you leave and you hit the road. There's a change of scenery. There's uphills, there's downhills. There are people coming, there are people going. There are people watching you and thinking, when's that, So just take us through that journey, that madness of eventually moving from the gym to the street, and how you came about to decide that you're going to run your first comrade marathon. Yet you are still a novice. Like you've just started running and already you are thinking of the comrades marathon.
If I had my way, we would exchange roles. I think I need to interview you. Wow, Fred, you are saying so much profound things. Just to build on exactly what you've just said now. There's a difference between activity and productivity. Right? A whole lot of us are trapped in activity.
Yeah.
That we can see that there's effort, right? But when we look at the input versus the output, we don't see desired results. So that's absence of productivity in the presence or midst of activity.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So and I like that analogy sort of you brought about the treadmill, right? Because look, the treadmill is effective, right? It's effective. You get a whole lot done, you sweat, it gives you a sense that you're really pushing and all of that. But the conditions are favorable. Yeah, you're inside the gym.
Yeah.
Right? The weather is the same, pretty much. All right? Until you then decide to go outside.
Love that.
All right. Now you see. One thing I liked about the treadmill, right? You could adjust the elevation, right? You could hike it or lower it, right? Depending on how you want. You can't do that on the road, right? On the road, if the road is steepy, and here's it, the road will never lower its steep, but you will improve your elevation.
Yay! Yes. Yes.
Yeah. The steep goes nowhere. But it's your elevation that improves. Right? And you then ask yourself, how? What was the fast? Can't you know? What has changed is your elevation. Right? Perspective, perception.
Love that.
Yeah. So it became that story of now hitting the road, and the conditions were adverse. All right. Sometimes it's windy, it's cold, it's all of that. The road is uneven.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Because when the way is rough, your patience has chance to grow. All right. So when you run, it gives you seasons of life. All right. There's a time where the road is just so nice and you're enjoying it and everyone is having fun because there's no steep. It's just flat and all of that. Right? But I have realized that as the road would change and there would be different inclines and all of that, you are going to use a different set of muscles. You know, here's it. When you're going up the stairs and when you're going down the stairs, you're not using the same muscles.
Exactly.
Yeah. So certain things are going to be triggered by what you are going through. As I would it's not necessarily to compete in anything. Right? Yeah, there you are. So in each and every one of us, there is a built-in insanity. No, none of us is an exception to that. There's something insane about you. All right? Not because you are a mental case.
Yeah.
All right? But it is key to your peculiarity. Right? It's what makes you distinct. Because when I say you are unique, someone can argue so is everybody else. To say you are unique implies that there is a universal impossibility whose possibility only resides with you.
All right. Yeah, I hear that.
Your life is incomplete without you tapping into your insanity.
Yes.
Right? So insanity determines that you go the opposite direction when the rest of the traffic goes the other way. Right? Because when we say you are strong, we don't necessarily mean it in a physical sense. When you say you're strong, we mean that you have the ability to stand for what you believe, even if it means standing alone.
Love that. Love that. Yeah. Yeah.
Until we are possessed by that level of insanity, where we know that the inner voice cannot be silenced by the outward cries, right? When people are saying no and you still press on, then you know you've tapped into your insanity.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess there's no way any individual can live a purpose-driven life or become that which they were meant to be without tapping into that level of insanity about their journey, right?
Absolutely. 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 Always ask yourself, what is it that makes other people uncomfortable about you? Right? Sometimes it may not necessarily be behavioral. It may not necessarily be there's something wrong you're doing, but there's something that is pursuing you and won't let you go. Yabona, this thing ifana nokuthi mhlambe siyahamba sonke bese kuqhamuka inja bese igijimisa wena kuphela. Yabona nje ilenqe wena wedwa.
Exactly. And you can't stand because all the others are standing.
No, it's coming after you, but
exactly.
Yes.
I like that, you know, because purpose then becomes like this dog that though it's leading you, but it's chasing you from the back to say you cannot go back. You run forward, you know, for your life. Your
Absolutely.
life.
Yeah.
I love that. I mean, you speak in your book, just by the way, for those that don't, and you speak in your book about your first race, and that for me was beautiful. I want to speak about the half marathon, the 42K.
Yes.
So, here you are, you've only ran like 3-4 races before that one, and now this is the race that is important because this one will decide for you that are you going to go into the marathon.
Correct.
You know?
Yes.
And here you are in the front line, you arrive early and you meet certain people there. And I love the fact that in the process of living, you are so conscious, you are so present. And I think that's one of the gifts that very few people possess, you know. As an artist, as an actor, it's one of the things that an actor cannot truly tell a story without being present to the moment. And I think that I find that even in how you live your life. Because as much as you are there in the front line, there's a lot of conversation happening, you were still present enough to see the different people who were there before the race.
Yeah, absolutely.
I want to speak about the three guys quickly. You speak in your book about a brutally honest candid. You speak about a cautiously hopeful and a daring determined. And I just want to speak about the three of them. These three characters that you meet that could have an outcome or an impact on how you then going to run your race.
Absolutely. You see, in the pathway of life,
yeah,
you are going to you're going to cross paths with various personalities, right? And there is a reason why these people must come your way. They are not brought by the devil. And even if they are, whatever is devil caused will be God used.
Hey! I love that! That's a good one. I love that. All right. Okay.
So, you are going to come across people who are not going to buy your face. All right? You need that type of people who are going to tell it as it is to you without sugarcoating you or sugarcoating it or nursing your emotions. All right? Because the challenge in life is a lot of us are ruined by praise and could be saved by criticism.
Yeah.
Right? So you've got to know. So a brutally candid person is that guy who said to me, when I said to him, no, like, this is my first race, and it was one of the toughest races here in Johannesburg. Right? That guy says, no way. Your first race? Yeah. No, forget it. When you just be happy if you can run and finish, but after less than 5 hours, forget it.
Yeah.
All right. His words were coming from a good place, right? And he had a frame of reference to back it.
His own experience, right?
Yeah, exactly, right? So people like that are necessary. And this is why later on in one of the chapters I say, prove no one wrong, but your conviction's right.
I loved that. That was my take home from this book. That we are not in this journey to prove anyone wrong, to show anyone that you do it. But we are there to prove our convictions right, to say, you were right all this time. Of course,
absolutely. Because even after that race, I was not looking for that guy who said, no, you're not gonna make it. No, because he was not malicious, right? He was not malicious. He was trying to bring me to a place where I can be realistic, right? So you see, there's something about conviction, right? Conviction causes you to function beyond statistical setting.
Yeah.
Right? Generally, we are part of a statistic, right? So, as a person who's fascinated by finances and things like that, in a state of a graph, there is what we call common data, which you will find in a certain place, and then there are outliers, right? An outlier is something that is an exception to the norm, right? So I believe that at any given point in life, we are all outliers at some point.
Woo! I love that.
There's something that makes you not to be a statistical count, but you just stand out.
Yeah, we're an exception to the rule.
Yeah. So when people reason candidly, right, it's not because they don't know that they're exceptions, but one thing they don't know is that you are that exception.
So people believe that they know that there are exceptions. But
yes.
But they don't think that they are that particular exception.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yes.
Let's move on to the second guy that you meet, the cautiously hopeful guy.
Yeah. So the question, this lady, because it was a lady I recall.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
She had done quite a few races.
Yes.
Right, and she could not finish others in time and things like that, and whilst there was hope, which when I look at it, it was not necessarily hope, but it was wishful thinking, because hope is confident expectation. Right?
Yeah.
That's biblical hope. It's confident expectation. In fact, biblical hope is the premise and the basis for faith. Faith is a substance of things hoped for. Right? So if there are no things hoped for, there's no basis for faith.
Exactly.
Right? Because hope is a confident expectation. Right? So she came there thinking that, I'm hopeful I'll make it, but I'm cautious. I don't want to talk about it, right? Don't want to tell people that I'm going to race because I'm cautious as hopeful. All right. So she came there with many races that she could not finish in time, and the other one she finished just after 5 hours. So so there was that hope that maybe this time around things could work, right? So you're going to meet such people in life, right, who have a sense of hope that things could turn for the better, but they're cautious in how they go about it. Why? Because they don't want the backlash that comes with people saying, "What were you trying to do?"
Exactly. And I mean, their past experiences are louder than their own voice, right? They are louder than
absolutely. Yes, absolutely. That's why somebody made a statement that I always like, because it's very provoking. He says, "What could you do when you know you can't fail?" Right? What is it that you could do when you just know that you can't fail? There must come a point in life where you say, "You know what? I'm going to stand for this thing, even when no one else believes in it. But I'm so possessed of this thing that I know that this thing will come to pass." Right? So you will meet cautiously hopeful people. They have hope, but their hope is confined within some fears of what if it does not happen. right? So there must be a shift from what if to even if.
I want to close that line, that what if from even if. I like that. But we are going to be running out of time. So I want us to go to the daring determined, the third guy.
You know, I like your slogan, Dare to live, right?
Dare
I like
to
that,
live.
right? Yeah. You know, until you dare, you're going nowhere.
Yeah.
Right? You know, when I was a young boy, right? I was not really a fan of street fights.
Yeah.
Right? I was not a fan of street fights, but I knew my strength is words.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to stand there and intimidate this guy. Right? I say, I dare you. You know, I dare you.
Yeah.
You know, I dare you.
Yeah.
You know, and at that point, you are hoping that your words can push him away. Right? You just push him away, because if he takes a step closer, your words could be intimidated, right? Your tone could change. Either you're going to take a step back, and then the guy would see it, Allah is just empty tin. You know? So this guy was in a pretty much similar space just like me, right? He had not trained much because he got injured in the course of that, and because he got injured after he'd registered for the race, so there was no time for preparation. All right, for him, all right, but he was there. He made it to the start line. You know, the thing that most runners fear is what we call DNF, did not finish.
Yeah.
Right? In my mind.
Show up. Yeah.
Yes, in my mind, and in how I live life, better a DNF than DNS.
Yeah, it did not show up.
Yeah, right? Did not even start. Right? You're not there. Right? You're not there. Yes, this person is here. Right? This person is here. So this guy knew that there's not much preparation that had gone into his training. He only managed to get some training in the last week or so before the race. All right? So he came there as an underdog from a psychological perspective. Now, here's it, my brother. In any race, there are two types of people. There are those that run from confidence of training. There are those that run from conviction of what is within them.
I love that.
So I don't know what people's approach to life. There are people who approach life from a view of confidence.
Yeah.
Right? And there are people who are approaching life from a view of conviction. To say, you know what, I may not have this, I may not have things working out my way, but there's this conviction in me that things will turn around.
Exactly. And I love that conviction. There's a lot in this book that we're gonna need a part 2, because I want us to get even to the point of speaking about the past, because for me the past was such a critical space. You know?
Absolutely.
It's such a critical, like the past summed up life for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that we really need to get to that part. But here we are, you are starting to run. As we wrap up, in conclusion, you start this journey of fitness or a journey of weight loss. It leads you to running. And you start this journey of running. And you've been a guy who's been very articulate, great speaker, very knowledgeable, a student of life, but you had never produced a book.
Yes.
And finally, this thing that started off as something else gives birth to your very first package that is like a gift to the world. Because I always say that what books does is that it takes a part of you to places that you would never arrive.
Absolutely.
So what other things did this race give you that you know that you otherwise don't think you would have found had you not taken this journey? And whilst you're answering that, conclude with us on how you can inspire somebody who's sitting at home or who's watching this conversation on how to take that first step in their journey.
Yeah, it's interesting that you'd ask, because, you know, I have always wanted to write a book, at least, right? Because I'm a fan of literature. Right, yeah, I'm one with them. I have countless books, man. Reading for me, it's just part of life. Okay, so, but for some reason, I knew that I wanted to write about something that could be easily understood first, right, and relatable, right? Whilst I have a whole lot of theological information to put together and send out there, but I really needed something that is a lived experience.
Yeah.
So part of the reasons that running became that to me, part of the reasons why running became that to me is because it afforded me the ability to generalize, internalize, memorize events before I memorialize them.
Ooh.
Okay?
Yes.
This network thing. Yeah, right? So I started accumulating that information, and as I was running, comrades, I was actually writing the book in my head as I was running. Right? So every turn was important because I was documenting it in my head to say, okay, this is what happened here, this is what happened here, this is what happened here. Right? So there are certain books that will come from a lived experience. Right? And there are certain things that you could say from a theoretical perspective. Right? But by and large, people are going to be impacted by what you've lived through, by what you've gone through. Right? The concept that has now become a cliche, but it's very powerful, that never waste your trials, never waste your challenges. Right? There's a whole lot of truth into that. Right? It's because we need to understand that there is always a perspective that any situation brings to your life. It's a dimension. Right? Blessings in life are like the stairway. Right? They are the same but different levels. Right? So things, when they come in your life and then they happen, right? You need to have the grace to document the things that are happening in your life. Right? Because somebody will need those things. So I usually say to runners, because when we run, there are photographers and things like that. And I say, never try and falsify your look. If you are tired when you see a photographer, don't smile.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
No, don't smile. Don't smile.
Yes.
That emotion is important, because when you are telling your story about what you were feeling at that point, and when you are smiling, when you know you are in pain, right? You are falsifying the image of the environment and situation. But life will bring a whole lot of things. Some will discourage you, will disappoint you, they'll leave you disheartened, but you must know that those things are necessary to building the person you are becoming.
Mutwam, I will hold it there because we're going to have a few more seconds here. To everyone, please follow him. What is your handle again?
I am Tsepo. Yeah, I'm Tsepo. Yes.
Follow him. I am Tsepo. Get the copy of this book. We're going to have a part 2. Hopefully, when we have a part 2, we're going to be having it on a live stage, and we're going to sit there and we're going to just have this conversation, because I really desire and pray for that to happen. I think you have a lot to give, and I have a lot to draw out of you.
Awesome, man.